5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
This is the first calculation example from the PowerPoint, which hopefully you've already seen, and I do urge you to try these problems before you see the solutions. So as always, read the question carefully, highlight the important data. We have an object changing its velocity from 24.48 meters per second to 54.00 meters per second over a time period of 10.15 seconds, and we're asked to calculate the acceleration. So as in previous examples, start by listing the data. U represents the starting or initial velocity, V represents the final velocity, and this is why it's important when you're calculating velocity as displacement over time to call it VAV, because V here is not the average velocity, it is the terminal or final velocity. T is 10.15 seconds, and we're trying to find A. We don't know this value, so we write it as a question mark. And with those four quantities listed and the letter symbols that represent them, you can see very easily that this is the formula that relates those quantities. A equals V minus U over T. So once we have the formula, substituting the data, and on your calculator, depending on what mode you use, it's a good idea to put a bracket around the difference on the top line to make sure your calculator does this calculation in the correct order, and the answer is 2.908. Don't forget the units, meters per second squared, and highlight your answer. Here's another one. It's very similar to the last one, so I hope you try it before you listen and watch the solution. A powerful race car accelerates from rest to 36 meters per second in 6.5 seconds. Determine the average acceleration of the car. Now, from rest means that it's stationary or not moving to begin with, so the initial velocity u equals 0. List the other data and write down the formula, substitute the values, and bracket the top line if you feel that helps, and the answer is 5.5 meters per second squared. Next example, an object is travelling along with a velocity of 2.44 meters per second when it accelerates at 1.97 meters per second for a time period of 7.47 seconds. What is the final velocity of this object? List the data. Initial velocity is 2.44 meters per second. Acceleration 1.97 meters per second. I'm emphasizing the correct units. And we're trying to find the final velocity. We're using the rearranged formula this time, V equals U plus AT. Substitute the data, calculate it, and the correct units are meters per second, and that's our answer. Oh, that's how I feel, sick as a dog.